Good afternoon, morning, mid-afternoon, depending on where you're at, to my LinkedIn family and to my Facebook family, as well as out to our YouTube channel here. It's time for another Coffee with Bob Live. And, I think I ought to start renaming this because I do this over my lunchtime because, I got to juggle a career and stuff like that. Maybe I should start calling it Lunch with Bob and stop drinking coffee so late in the day. I'm not quite sure. But I'm really excited. If you've been a fan or if you've been watching Coffee with Bob, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. This is the first time that I've actually hosted so many people. I've had the honor of hosting Johnny Reddick a couple of times now. Once we did with Rachel Beck, and it was like 3 of us, I think, or 4 of us on that. And I thought that was a lot. Having 6 of us, this is going to be interesting. Today I'm featuring, and she's blessed me with this, is Dr. Irene Cop. And she's working on the Global Shift Initiative, as well as working on I'm gonna put it up here in the banner. Here we go. daysforgirls.org, and everything that Dr. Irene is working for is helping to benefit daysforgirls.org. And I'm not going to steal your thunder on this, but I'm a big believer in it, especially being the father of a daughter and 2 beautiful daughter-in-laws and friends with some really super women like yourself. I think this is an amazing venture. So, Dr. Irene, I'm going to turn it over to you to make the introductions and explain a little bit what's going on.
Thank you so much, Bob. And it was just like, I was so happy when you suggested this, and I wanted to bring all of our team on as well. And we do have most of them here today. So let me, before I do anything else, introduce our amazing rock star team. We have, and I'm just going in order of how I see them on my screen, Dr. Obed Magni is like the leadership guru when it comes to justice, policing, and really making shift happen. And right beside him is Johnny Reddick. We have so many doctors. She should be a doctor. Johnny Reddick, who is, again, the go-to person for leadership, especially in policing, justice, safety, law enforcement. And so they are helping us on the side of the initiative for first responders, and really bringing that perspective of the critical incidents, the trauma, whether it's the acute trauma, the cumulative trauma that our law enforcement agents and first responders deal with on a day-to-day, that just like leads them down that slippery slope to burnout and sacrificing their lives, their career, their personal family lives. And we really want to make a shift on that. We also have Dr. Dan Carlicchio, who is also a doctor of chiropractic, functional medicine, and nutrition expert, adjunct professor at Bridgeport University. And he and I are heading up the initiative to help healthcare providers manage their burnout, prevent burnout, bounce back from burnout, again, because it's like, these are all our real life heroes. And so feeling very passionate about helping them keep serving their communities, how they do best, and still, like, they still deserve the same quality of life that everybody else that they're trying to save and help does. And so again, so thank you to all of you. Then we have Lance Carniewicz, who is our financial expert. So he brings, the practical side to it, and financial coach. And oops, we just lost Lance.
Yeah, he was having connection issues earlier, so he'll pop back in, I'm sure.
Awesome. So Lance is our financial coach and expert. And, there are times where we definitely need to have that practical side of, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to, right? So he's there to help those of our community that need that practical side to really turn around and level up their finances because that can be one of our greatest wounds. And I am Dr. Irene. I am the Success Without Sacrifice expert. There's Lance. And because of my own catastrophic burnout 18 years ago, where I literally crashed and burned and almost killed my young sons and myself in a catastrophic car accident, I am passionate about helping others, especially real life heroes, whether it's first responders, healthcare providers, teachers, parents, right? Everybody who is in, has that calling and that drive to help others in however way, shape, or form that shows up, just to allow them to keep doing that and say, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have that amazing life and you don't have to be the martyr, right? Like, we are all children of God, and we are all designed to be superheroes and to have the most amazing life. And I'm here, and my team are here to help everyone else make that happen.
It's amazing. I mean, you've really put together an amazing group, and what I like about the group is that it kind of goes across several different sort of vertical expertise, right? So that you're sort of hitting all the cylinders of who it may be, and having a daughter-in-law, I guess it was daughter, in healthcare. This is just so extremely important to them. I mean, we're all opening back up, right? People are getting back out there, but the healthcare workers are still just as busy as ever. I mean, it's pretty amazing, and she's in the process of studying to get her nurse practitioner. Yeah. So that's another stress added on. So she's doing full shifts, plus she's doing schooling. So thank you for doing this and putting this together, and thank you all for joining, and I welcome very much.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you for allowing us to have this forum to really bring out this mission. And I call it a mission because really we are so passionate about it, all of us. And I would love for all of us to tell a little bit about our backstory, just like, if, with your permission, Bob, just so you get a sense of why I may have started this, and I may have founded the Global Shift Initiative, and really it's not just all about me. And every single one of the people on this call, including you, are doing our part in our own way, and we're all rock stars in our own way. And so I would just love to highlight them. Yeah,
before we go around and highlight these other folks, let's explain a little bit about the Shift Initiative.
Absolutely. So the Global Shift Initiative, SHIFT is an acronym, and it stands for Self-Healing Innovations Fast Forwarding Transformation. So in other words, it's all about self-healing and doing that in the best way possible. Like I know it's hard to believe, I'm very impatient. In other words, I want things done yesterday. In other words, I'm always about, like, what is the fastest, easiest, most effective, powerful way to get stuff done. And that includes with our health. And I'm also passionate about, having done clinical practice for over 25 years, just like Dr. Dan, yes, there's a time when people need to reach out and have the passive care. And I am now at a place where I want to empower people to help themselves. In other words, rather than giving a man a fish and feeding him for a day, I want to teach a man how to fish and feed him for a lifetime, right? So even though I do acupuncture, for instance, I love to teach tapping, which is a form of acupressure, because even if it's not as effective in the moment, to me, it's more effective because I'm teaching them a skill that they can do every single day, any time of the day, and for the rest of their lives. In other words, it's allowing them to take back their power and their control over their lives and well-being. And so everything that we are about in the Global Shift Initiative is about empowering others to improve their lives and well-being. We're just the guides.
Awesome. All right. So why don't you go ahead and let's go around and let's make the introductions, give a little background on everyone.
Love to. Johnny, I would love for you to start because you have an amazing story.
Thank you. And thank you for having us again, Bob. First of all, what attracted me to being a part of this with Dr. Irene is the real authenticity that she brings to a very sensitive and vulnerable space. And for me, coming from policing, this is really important when you're talking about building trust, to be able to do the kind of things we want to do to help people to help themselves. And so I retired after 29 years with California Highway Patrol. I retired as an assistant chief. For me, as a woman of color, that is less than 1% for law enforcement in our country. And for my department, it's less than 1%. And that 30,000 foot view exposed me to not only my own cumulative trauma through my 29 years of all the ranks serving the police, but also that of my teams and staff of hundreds. And, you know, although we were making strides and, you know, creating programs and access for our employees to be able to have peer support or employee assistance programs or mindfulness practices, or to be able to even feel comfortable coming to a supervisor to share that you're having some issues around, you know, your mental health, has shifted quite a bit in 30 years from when I came on. And so right now, stats show that between, you know, now and the next 10 or 20 years, we need to grow even more in this space, not only in policing, but for industries across the country. And so for us in policing, and Dr. Obed will probably, you know, magnify this to play on his last name, but we are overexposed to critical incidents and crisis to the average of about 188 per year. That's on average. But for the majority of us, we experience much more trauma and crisis than that through the incidents that we respond to. And then we can't also forget the trauma that our staff and employees go through internally in an organization if they're you know, being investigated for misconduct. Maybe it's organizational culture and the stress from bad supervisors or leaders. That's why this balance of finance that Lance brings is so important. Many of my officers sometimes would be in over their head financially. That would create stress. And, you know, they'd have to figure out what to do with their family. So all these pieces that everybody in the team brings together is so extremely essential, not only for our mental health, but our physical health and our overall well-being. And it's this place that I see as, for us, in policing, we begin to be cynical and we isolate and we lose the capacity for social trust. And this is a way to bring us back into engaging not only to our lives and our families, but into the world. And I just think something like this will be a bridge to be able to help a lot of people. So I'm just really glad to be a part of it in whatever capacity I can be and bring my experience, my knowledge, and my expertise. So thank you.
Johnny's an amazing person to have on the team too. So that made me really pleased when I saw that.
I know. I was like, I almost didn't give her a choice, right, Johnny? I can be very persuasive. So how about we keep in line with that and hop over to Dr. Obed Magni, please.
So, you know, obviously Johnny's a superstar. So it's like, how do you follow all of that, right? So Johnny pretty much took just covered everything right there, really get, regarding public safety and, law enforcement, first responders and all that. So for me, it was kind of weird. So I was a doctoral student back in 2010-ish, and I came across this subject of emotional intelligence. Now, I always knew there was something about interpersonal skills or training with the, interpersonal skills. And I'm a people person. Like, you could put me in a crowd of a whole bunch of people I don't even know, and I'm gonna be like, hey, what's going on? How you guys doing? What's up? What's going on? Yada, yada, yada. And I was like, what is this thing? And I know that I have a gift when it comes to talking. And sometimes I do ramble a little bit too much. But when I came across the subject of emotional intelligence, that was the light bulb. That was this is what it is. This is what we don't do in policing. We don't train in this. We don't put any value in this. This is why people are like, you know what? Cops are, a-holes and this, that, and the third. This is why people don't like cops, because they're so distant and they're not very, personable. It's like, hey, we need to be teaching this in policing, huh? Hey, does anyone know why we're not doing this? Like, what's going on here? So that started my journey of trying to introduce this subject in the, law enforcement realm. And that's kind of how I got into, building my own consulting company with training and coaching on emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills. And, Johnny hit on something real quick. If you look at the statistics, right? So there was a study that was just released recently showing that, and this is kind of scary, I'm almost even embarrassed to say it out loud, but we spend in policing in a typical 6-month academy 3%, actually technically 3.21% on interpersonal skills, right? So if you look at an academy that's about 600 hours or 644 hours, something like that, we spend 20 hours. That's it, 20 hours on interpersonal skills. Now, what is the very nature of first responders, police officers? They're dealing with people who are having a bad day, right? So if you're talking about we're in the people business, if we're in the interpersonal business, you would think there'd be a premium on that type of training. And so this is kind of how I got on this team, talk with Dr. Irene and, Johnny, we're all kind of like in that same mindset of here's a profession that's in crisis right now. And obviously that's a different show for a different day. This type of training, whether it's, through coaching and or workshops, everybody else, I don't want to say everybody else, it is common in the Fortune 500, Fortune 100, Fortune 1000 companies, right? And, just to give you a real life example, if you're having a problem with your phone, right? Let's say you've got, Verizon and, you're not getting your text messages or something like that. So you call Verizon, right? And, someone will come on and like, before you talk to the person on the phone, they'll say, hey, this phone call will be recorded for quality assurances. Well, why is that? Because Verizon, and I'm not giving a plug for Verizon, shout out to Verizon, but I'm not getting to use them or anything. But, they're saying, hey, we want to record this because we want to make sure the person that you're talking to is utilizing the skills that we've been teaching them. So, you're having a crisis, you're not, getting your phone calls or whatever it is. And, the person on the other line, you're expecting them to, be there for you, right? And you want them to solve your problem because it's the biggest problem of the day. You don't care about your next door neighbor's problem. You care about, hey, I can't get my text messages. So you talk to the person, they solve the problem. What happens when you hang up? You either get a text message or a phone call or an email. Hey, can you give us a quick survey? How was your experience? So on and so forth. So bringing this back full circle to follow what Johnny was saying and what Dr. Irene's talking about and why we have this team put together is we got to have that same operational process in customer service, in law enforcement, in the first responder world, as we're dealing with people, because, what's the biggest thing that people want is they want officers to be more compassionate, more empathetic, and so on and so forth. So I think I did that in less than 30 seconds, right? So that's how I got on this team.
Close enough.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm just going to hop in here and say, you can tell that they're so amazing. I want to say that Johnny said to me once, so it's kind of like Jamba Juice. And I'm like, I'm Canadian, so I'm like, what's Jamba Juice? And she goes, you go in and you get like a juice, but then you can get a shot of this if you need it, and you can get a shot of that. And that's what the beauty of this team is, right? Because we bring so much that while there's overlap between, say, Johnny and Dr. Obed, or between Dr. Dan and myself, or other ways, it's that we all bring something to the table. And the beauty of the team is that we can all hop in, parachute in, and say, okay, so you need help with this. Lance can, hop in and talk finances and help people with that. So that's the beauty of this. I also want to highlight, it's not just policing. We have amazing leaders in that, because I looked at all first responders, and I think there's I looked at a stat recently that said that the average paramedics work life span is 5 years before they're burned out and need to leave the profession. And that means that, say they come out straight from high school, 18, even 19 years old, do their training, they're 25 by the time they're burned out and need to leave. And it's the critical incidents like Johnny's talking about. It's everything that's wrapped into it. And so I wanted to point out that everything that Johnny and Dr. Obed are talking about really can apply to all first responders and beyond. You could say all leaders. Right?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I know Johnny a lot better because we've had a couple of discussions like this and done a couple of lives together. I think this applies across the board, not just to first responders. I think it's especially important for first responders, but I think this applies to business people, to teachers, anybody who's sort of stuck in that stressful situation because they've got goals to meet, deadlines to meet, children that you're responsible for. It can add up. It can add up. I mean, with my wife being a teacher, right? I see it almost every day, especially during the pandemic, with some of her friends who are just stressed out beyond belief. And so what I've learned from you, Doctor Irene, so far, not just in this call, but in other things, other discussions that we've had, it applies across the board. And these are, what you guys are developing are great actionable steps that just about anyone can take to help alleviate stress. And I don't mean to steal your thunder. I'm sorry. So go ahead.
I just wanted to weigh in really quick, and I know you got to get to Lance and Dan, but Bob, what you said is so important. Is we all have this connected space of humanity, and what we've found through the pandemic is people need a place to feel is safe. Mm-hmm. They need those circles of safety and communities of safety, and a lot of times in their industries and their organizations, it's not provided. It's just not provided. And what we're trying to accomplish is to provide that space where you can come and talk about those things, whatever it may be. And from the team, just like the Jamba Juice analogy, you can come in and you can get your central beverage. But if you need an energy shot or you need, your vitamin boost, we can go to the menu and we can add to that for you, because we all come from a different lived experience. We all come from a different leadership lens. We all come from a different, level of education and, all of those things which tie in and to me give somebody, really some full value and a place for them to be able to do that and talk about it and open up, and also to say it's okay to not be okay. And we're just like you. We've been through some things. Let us share as we also help you. So I think that's really important for those that will be listening.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Johnny. I love that. And so let's hop over to Dr. Dan Cardelicchio next, please.
Well, Robert, thank you very much for having us today. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with such a distinguished panel, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody. And as Dr. Irene says, it's not burnout, it's flame out. And we did a podcast, about 16 or so months ago, and we had very similar, same experiences. I'm a chiropractor forever. I've been practicing a long time, and I'm 60 years old now. And there's a lot of pressure on healthcare providers, especially during the pandemic. I won't tell you how many friends I lost during the pandemic that contracted. I mean, significant numbers, by the way, in northern New Jersey, where they were exposed to this at some point in time, and we're continually being exposed to it. And there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stress that's going on. So I've lost first responder friends. I've lost nurses. I've lost physicians, that close friends that have contracted this. And during this time, it's been extremely, extremely stressful to practice. Patients aren't coming in. Patients want to get better. Patients are afraid to come in. And the whole gamut of this has just affected us in such a way where, the stress levels are significantly high right now. And as Dr. Irene, I had my own flame out. I'm 60 or almost 60. And when I was 37 years old, I had a heart attack. I had multiple offices throughout the Northeast, not just where I live here in New Jersey, because why not? I just wanted to be, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey. It was pretty. It was nice to ride, but it was very, very stressful. And I remember the month that I was having the heart attack, I remember saying to myself, I'm going to have a heart attack. And I couldn't stop it. I could not stop it. And I just remember waking up one night and going to the hospital thinking I was going to have it then, but it was actually a couple of days later. It wasn't fun, I can tell you that. And so when Dr. Irene asked me to come on, I automatically said yes, because I think that, from the healthcare provider aspect, there's a lot that we can help out with. And all of us together can help out a lot with a lot of different types of professions. And Robert, you said it before, it's just not first responders. It's just not healthcare providers, physicians, nurses, psychologists. It's moms, it's dads, it's teachers, it's everybody that's involved in this. So, it's a pleasure to be here. Dr. Obed, I could go on for another hour if you want me to. So maybe you and I could, we could do a little show together, brother. But I'm going to cut it now because we want to keep it within 5 hours then. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dan. And just as Johnny said, the need to create a safe place for first responders and policing to have these conversations and to show your vulnerability, right? Because you have to start there, and then you can heal, right? It has to start in that one spot. It's just as much so as with healthcare providers. There's a saying, doctors make the worst patients, and that is so true. That is so true. And in our defense, I'm going to say it's not just doctors, it's nurses, it's nurse practitioners, it's policing, it's right. In other words, to me, it's all of our real life heroes, because we are driven to excel and to achieve, and we have a calling, right? Nobody in their right minds gets into healthcare or into policing because of the money, right? We're there because we want to help people. And that very need, that calling, can just add that extra dollop of potential for burnout, because we push ourselves and push ourselves and push ourselves. And then there's the system that really not only encourages it, expects us to give and give and give until we're bled dry. I call it the gauntlet mentality, right? Medical students go through this, medical, residents go through, and it's really, there's like an old club that is like, well, if I did it, you can do it too. And if you can't handle 100 hours a week of residency and helping patients, that obviously you don't have what it takes, right? And throughout, so it's very much so that we have to be strong, right, guys? We have to, we have to be tough. We have to, because we're supposed to be there for everyone else. We're supposed to be like gods and somehow immune to the effects of stress and trauma that everybody else is experiencing, and that we are helping them with. And that's just not the case. Before COVID-19, 2018, I believe, 2019, the burnout rate of doctors who had, and this is what they admitted, was over 50%. And when I say admitted, because just as Johnny said, there are so many more, I guarantee, that were not admitting it even to themselves, let alone, and we're afraid. It's like pilots admitting that they have depression, right? It's like you want to get booted off it's like nobody's going to admit that unless they absolutely have to. And now with COVID, that has just skyrocketed. In fact, they're saying that the next pandemic is going to be mental health. And because stress impacts your immune system, it's going to be increases in cancer. Stress, leads to diabetes, obesity and diabetes. So, and then Alzheimer's, because Alzheimer's is like diabetes type 3. So we're going to see an uptick. In other words, we're going to see an uptick in all of the major killers worldwide beyond COVID. It's not just, ooh, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're feeling a little anxious or overwhelmed, right? No, it's the physical impacts as well. My burnout, my flame out, and I call it flame out syndrome for a reason, because of the aviation term, is that it's like there's the potential totally to crash and burn, and it's physical. It's not just mental and emotional, and it's not just workplace. Johnny mentioned it's like there's the work trauma, but then there's like the personal trauma, right? All of us still have our families and the dynamics that are going on with that. Homeschooling kids or not being able to see family members, being isolated, right? There's a reason why suicide rates are skyrocketing. And it's just our real life heroes. And I include teachers in that, and moms and dads, anybody who feels the need that they're putting everyone else first besides themselves. They really need this support. And that's what this is all about. So, sorry, I got on my soapbox there.
Okay. That's a good soapbox to be on. Let's not forget Lance, though.
We're not going to forget Lance. Now, Lance is he's the quiet one of the group. He likes to be in the background, and he totally downplays his what he brings to the table, because we all figure that it's just like, we're regular people. And we are all regular people, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And Lance is no different. So Lance, whether you like it or not, speak on up, please.
Thank you, Dr. Irene. Thank you, Rob, for holding us today. I think I did. Hold on. I'm in the corporate world for 30 years now. And I've worked at both public and private companies where I've seen colleagues of mine stress out over different deadlines and getting work done. And it really is something you see. And people don't realize that when you work for a public company. I worked for one of the biggest utility companies in the country, National Grid. I worked there for a few years. And just the deadline keep there. You didn't work a normal 9 to 5 day. You worked till 8 o'clock at night because you had to get a report done by a certain time because it was a public company and they had to file reports with the SEC. And if you didn't have that done, you really were, could be really behind the 8 ball. So I experienced, myself, that myself as well as seeing my colleagues do that. And about in 2010, I had my own, burnout where I wanted to be in the finance industry anymore and be an accountant, because only at that point I had a young daughter and my wife actually, I see her stresses. And then I realized though I really do have a passion for working with numbers, and I have worked in several companies where I've helped streamline processes to make finance and accounting departments more efficient. So it really is something I'm very proud of and good at, and can bring that perspective even to people on a personal level. I have done personal taxes in my career, earlier in my career, where I did help people set up their own budget so they could not see their paycheck disappear as soon as they got paid. So bring that back to people sometimes. They don't realize it's not. If you just realize what your major bills are, then sort of have a list and like this, have your budget, and it's hard, but it's not as hard as people think to really sit down and follow one. So I think I can bring that. Like I said, I've seen the different aspect of the corporate world, working in a private company or working in a public company. Whether one is public company is definitely more fast paced and more deadline driven. Where you're in a private company, it's more laid back and you work at your own pace more, and there's not as much deadlines to deal with. So that I think I can help somebody with and really bring that perspective of what it's like to be in the corporate world and be in large companies besides the utility companies. And I've been in telecom companies. I've been in medical companies. I worked for a medical malpractice insurance company for a few years and saw what went on there. Currently, I work for one of the biggest orthotic and prosthetic companies on the East Coast. And it's a very interesting experience to see what a lot of people go through, and a lot of people out there that need the products that my company sells. From toddlers to older people. Sometimes I see the different ages of people on an invoice I might get, and it's like, wow, people, it's not easy. People lose limbs or people have issues, and it's just, and I can see, like I said, I feel like in that perspective of, you really can survive. Finance doesn't have to be as difficult as people think it is. It really is something you can sort of have a plan and not be stressed out as a lot of people are over it.
That's very cool. So, Dr. Irene, I love the mixture the blocks you have put together so that you can help support the different pillars in someone's life to help alleviate some of the stress that's going on. I think that's amazing because and finance is a good thing. I think finance impacts everybody across the board, and I don't know of a single person, at least in my life right now, that finance is not a huge stress for them, because most people that I know in the workforce today are still working on either reduced hours, right, which means reducing income, or reduction in salary, just so their companies could survive. And even as things are opening up, that part of their lives haven't really moved forward yet. So everybody is struggling with that. I get that. So I think it's fantastic that you've done that. So why don't you give us a little bit of a quick overview on how you see this team, or how you've put this team together to help someone, right? How do people get involved with this? They recognize the fact that stress is, having a negative impact on their lives. All right. So what do? They give you a call and say, let's go. Why don't you explain, give a little background on that?
I'd love to, Bob. Thank you so much. And yes, it's so true that our financial is most people's greatest wound right now, which is why I was so happy to welcome Lance onto the team. And I want to point out, it's like none of us here is holier than thou, like, at the pinnacle saying that thou shalt do this, thou shalt do that. We've all been in the trenches. And in many cases, we're still in the trenches and maybe a few steps ahead. In other words, and that is what I love about this team. It's that, it's kind of like having and please forgive me if I offend anyone in the audience, a size 2 Barbie doll personal trainer trying to tell somebody who needs to lose weight how to lose weight, and they've never had that challenge. We have all been through our challenges, and it's a journey. And that's why I feel that we are the guides that we are, because we have walked the talk. And speaking of which, the team that we've brought together is here to support in so many ways, and we're adding more ways every single day. And I'm just going to list some just to give you an idea. So for instance, we have a masterclass coming up Monday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern, and it's called Learn the 3 Secrets to Bounce Back from Burnout and Reclaim Your Drive to Succeed. And so it's really giving you that foundation of what is likely dragging you down that you may not even be aware of. And because we always want to look outside of ourselves. And even though, yes, the system is hammering on us, and there are always going to be life curveballs and adversity, like COVID, there are so many things that we can do ourselves to really, as I love to say, hit those curveballs out of the park. Right. In other words, it's like, release the kryptonite so that you can be that superhero that you really want and need to be for yourself and others. And then on Wednesday, June 23rd, we are starting what I'm lovingly calling our research edition of our 30-day Success Without Sacrifice training. And it's all about clearing your success BS and other energy vampires that are blocking you from having your desired life and your best life. And that is our foundational program that we are rolling out. Everything that is taught, and I call it a training because it's not just teaching. It's meant to be lived. It's meant to be internalized. And it's really, again, all about empowering our audience, our participants, to release those energy vampires that are dragging them. I always envision like this big millstone, those old-fashioned millstones, like with a chain through that center hole, and we're like dragging that through life, and we're not even aware of it. In other words, life doesn't have to be that hard, and it's all about releasing that. So then that frees up our precious energy, our bandwidth, and other resources that we need to be the best and do the best that we can. And we're also creating that safe place that Johnny was talking about. And that is, we're creating private Facebook groups, communities that are dedicated to certain areas. So one is the Success Without Sacrifice community for first responders, which will only be for first responders. And then we'll have a similar one, a parallel one, Success Without Sacrifice community for health providers, and so on, so that it'll be a safe place for first responders or health providers to go in and really share their struggles, co-mentor each other, and learn resources and get the support that they need, so that then they can feel that hope, that they can understand that they're not alone, and that you don't have to be that island. You don't have to go it alone, and that we're stronger together. We have a good friend, Tracy Harrell, that talks about it's all bigger than me. And really, truly, that's what this is about. It is a mission that we are on, to bring everyone with us.
Oh, that's incredible. And what I love is that you're taking everybody into account, right? And what's even more incredible to me is that you all, at some point or another, have been through it, right? And you've come out on the other side, which always lends to me a lot of credibility and expertise. And I know it would give me, in taking your courses, taking your classes, would give me comfort knowing that you've been through it too. Like you were mentioning, a weight loss coach who's never actually had to lose weight, right? There's a difference. There really is, and I think that's incredible. How do people get in touch with you? How do people find you, Irene?
My website currently is drirenecop.com. So that's COP as in police. I'm not a real police, but yes, that is my name. I had to say the joke. Come on, guys. I had to say it. Come on. And I'm happy to give you the links for the program and the masterclass and Facebook pages after this. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and what we'll do is I'll add these into the comments in the repeat, so people can find it, so that you can get in touch with Dr. Irene. And I think if you're not connected to, if you're not following, if you're not engaging with these folks, you really need to be. There's doing some incredible stuff on LinkedIn as well too. I engage with Johnny and Irene constantly on LinkedIn. I'll connect up with the others here too later today. But I think that's important as well too. Now, equally important with what you're doing, let's talk about the Days for Girls.
I'd love to. So, as part of the Global Shift Initiative, is just as important is the arm, the charitable arm. And the vision there is to help, especially women, not to leave the guys out. And at the same time, having had a mom who was a single mom who struggled and sacrificed and did without to try and give us the life. And I was a single mom, and that was part of the pressures that I felt that led to my crash and burn. I am very passionate about helping other women, especially throughout the world, empower them to be more successful through education and any other means possible, because single moms and other moms, are raising the majority of the kids. by themselves. So in other words, it's impacting our next generation. And there are so many inequities still in the world. And while we can only do so much one at a time, I've chosen daysforgirls.org, which is run by Celeste Murians, as our chosen charity. In other words, a portion of the proceeds of every program that is taken of the Success Without Sacrifice, a portion of the proceeds will go to Days for Girls. Now, Days for Girls it's coming down to one of those most fundamental needs that girls and women have, and that is our very sexuality and feminine hygiene. And that throughout history, even in ancient times, wasn't understood, was looked upon as the, almost like it was like evil. It was the devil. It was something to be ashamed of. Girls were ostracized and, shamed for it and kept out of school and so on. And it's still happening in the world today. And Celeste started Days for Girls because she realized that there were places in the world, like an orphanage, for instance, that she was working with in Kenya, where the girls couldn't go to school. They were, I'm going to be just, blunt and say it, that the girls had nothing to help them through their periods. So they were literally sitting on cardboard for days, stuck in their rooms, and they were being sexually used to even get like one feminine pad or tampon, that would allow them to get out. In other words, it's the most basic form of survival needs that half the world has that is not being adequately addressed, mostly because we've been programmed to be shamed for it. And because of that, it was impacting the girls' education and their ability to make their waves in life. Even just, as I said, like being raped and used just so that they could take care of a basic need was just absolutely mind-blowing to me when I interviewed Celeste actually for my podcast, the Self Heal podcast. And I was just like, I got to do whatever I can to help. And this fits totally perfectly in with our mission of helping.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think it's such a critical thing. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, again, if you're not connected to, if you're not following, if you're not engaging with any of these individuals out there, you really need to be. They're doing important work. Individually as well as collectively here for Dr. Irene. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on. I'd love to do this again. Maybe we can do it where we take some questions from the audience, to help them out and do some support sessions or something like this. Any way that I can help you guys, I want to be here for you and expose you as much as I can and be a supporter as much as I can. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Robert, for giving us this platform, this opportunity, and really helping us highlight our mission, our vision in empowering the world to improve their lives and well-being. Thank you so much.
But before we go, when's your next masterclass coming up? This Wednesday?
Masterclass is Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern.
And they can get that information at drirenecop.com, right?
I will make sure it's there. I have to admit my website's a little bit behind the times because I've been so busy rolling out this other stuff, and I will make sure that it's on there.
Well, I mean, but they can. So if you want, reach out to Dr. Irene on LinkedIn, DM her for the information. I'm sure she'll give it to you. Johnny, you can go ahead and DM her. I'm sure she'll give it to you. Dan and Obid and Lance, if you're connected to them, DM them. They'll get you the information. I mean, they're all very accessible. I want to make sure I say that. Even though you might not see their websites on their profiles or anything like that, DM them, take advantage of that communication link. I don't know about, on Facebook, how deep you guys are on Facebook, if you direct messages there, but LinkedIn's a little bit different. So thank you again. get out there, and you guys are changing the world, which is truly amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me on Coffee with Bob. We don't do this almost every week. I try to do it weekly at 11 a.m. Central. So we'll see what goes on for next week. Take care, everybody.